creating multiple income streams can help achieve financial stability and growth, widely used by entrepreneurs to minimize risks and maximize earning potential. Diversifying income sources provides a cushion during economic downturns, as income from one stream can offset the shortfall in another. This approach not only enhances financial security, but also offers flexibility, and for some, even the freedom to pursue personal interests beyond a single job. Income streams can vary. Passive sources include royalties, investment dividends, and rental income. Active income from side businesses or freelance work, such as consulting or gig economy jobs, demands more involvement but can significantly increase earnings. Invested income through stocks, bonds, or real estate further diversifies financial assets. Striking a balance requires financial planning and time management, while staying updated on new opportunities and market trends ensures that each source remains viable and contributes to long-term financial success. Leslie, can you share a story of someone who you've seen successfully transition from one main source of income to multiple streams through your programs?
Really, most of the people in our programs already have multiple streams of income because they are working for someone, they're working for themselves, and then they're usually trying to do collaborations with others that are coming there. What I've told them, what they do with that is that you really have to be intentional with that additional income, because it's really easy to burn yourself out if you make sure what you're doing for that additional income has some type of synergy connection to what you're doing in other areas, or it supports you making that exit to focus just on that one thing. Then that's a little bit easier when you're intentional with that purpose. There are a few participants in the program that have came in and they may have started as one thing. Maybe they were doing videography, as in they would create videos for other people. Well, the thing that happens in a lot of our workshops is that other participants will come in and then they'll offer things that they do. And I've watched this happen several times in our workshops where then they've created a project together. So most times the biggest part of this is having conversations. The biggest part that will help with this is being open to someone offering a service or a feature that you don't have. But I say anytime you do additional income outside of one, it has to be very intentional and it has to match up so that you don't feel like you're wasting your time.
I want to turn it to you. How do you manage your time? Because you have multiple streams of income.
Yeah, I told you it's magic. I just use magic. There's like all this magic that I just sprinkle on it. No, I communicate. Okay, so like I have to communicate with others that I am very driven, that I am very passionate, and that I focus on my purpose. So that way no one is giving me pressure on why I'm doing so much. I set it up where I balance and I decide what's important to me. I'm not using anyone else's measurement for success. So I might like working 12 hours, on projects. I might like working 3 jobs. This is still in the area where it still has to be personal for me, because my OCD behavior towards finances and working may drive the average person crazy, but it works for me. So that's really the only way I can do it. It has to stay focused on what I want.
Love it. John, what does the evidence suggest? Should entrepreneurs aim to build multiple streams of income, or do they risk spreading themselves too thin?
Actually, Andy, this is an area where I'm going to challenge you and push back a little bit. Eventually, you may well get there, but at the beginning, it's really tough to figure out the one thing you can do for your customers that they're willing and able to pay for. And until you really get that figured out, the last thing you want to do is diversify yourself and try and do multiple things at the same time. So I think of the Airbnb guys, for example. At the beginning, they found friends in San Francisco who had spare couches and extra bedrooms and stuff, but they served only convention goers, only in San Francisco at the beginning, until they figured out how the model worked. And it was only when they went to the Democratic National Convention, where Barack Obama got nominated in 2008, that they really got on the radar. And I think of Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, who built Nike. It was 5 years before Phil Knight could quit his day job as an accountant. 5 years trying to sell better running shoes to elite distance runners, these people who could run a 4-minute mile. But when those runners started winning marathons, then everybody else who was a runner said, oh, maybe I want Nike shoes. And once they got to that point, they learned how to design shoes in China or Japan. They'd learned how to import them. They'd learned how to use athletes' input to not only design the right shoes, but endorse them. And at that point, it was pretty straightforward to say, well, let's call John McEnroe and do tennis. And then they called Michael Jordan and did basketball. But you don't want to do those two things too soon. You got to start by being really laser focused and figure out something that's going to work. And then once you get it working, and maybe, Rachel, you could speak to this, then maybe that's time to figure out what else you can do for your customer.
Yeah, for sure. We've gone through a lot of evolutions of our business model over time, honestly. From the early days, it was purely a service-based business. We were making money by billing our clients a certain amount, taking a margin, and then paying out our contractors. And that business, like I said, grew really fast, but it was very hard to scale. And through that, we really found that when the pandemic hit in 2020, a lot of people got laid off. And in my field, when you get laid off in advertising, you're freelance now. And you post on LinkedIn, oh, I guess I'm freelance now. And a lot of your clients end up coming from your network. But when you're not inside of an agency, you really don't know how to put a scope of work together, how to price yourself, how to do any of those things. And so that's where we started to show people the internal tools that we had built for ourselves. And that's when a light bulb moment sort of went off for them. So we actually wound down the services side of the business, and we wound up the product at the end of 2020. And the product has sort of transformed over the last few years from pure financial services to financial services plus payments plus subscription to now licensing as well. And so thinking about not just what is the right monetization model, but also how can we get the best distribution possible with spending the least amount of money is generally what led us to the next most recent evolution, which is to partner and license through larger players that already serve end customers like ours.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about the licensing. Does that just give you better distribution?
Yeah, so essentially a lot of these financial institutions have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of end customers that are independents, freelancers, or small studios. Leslie, actually what you were talking about earlier, people sort of teaming up with each other for different projects, that's exactly what people on our platform do. We call it a virtual studio. And it's basically where you kind of scale yourself up and down based on the projects that are sort of coming across your desk. And so from our perspective, with a lot of these companies that have these end customers, they're only really capturing sort of a small percentage of their volume. But if they were to able to offer more software, more like further up the stack than just payments and banking, which is sort of at the end of the workflow pain points, then they can increase their engagement and their stickiness and ultimately help their customers make more money. And when their customers make more money, we all make more money, which is obviously like a win-win-win all around. And we give those licenses become more accessible. The software becomes more accessible to people because our partners actually pay for the licenses on behalf of the end users. So, we know there aren't necessarily a ton of people out there who can or want to pay $144 a year to use the software, but they're still processing a good amount of volume. And so again, that just gives us another way to serve our customers, still get paid, but be able to reach the people that we know can really use the software and help them grow. And eventually we'll be there for them as they sort of transition and grow their business and scale up into teams.
Makes sense. Anybody else have anything to add on this segment?
I'll just say quick, I talk to a lot of people because I work with a ton of freelancers. And I talk to a lot of people who have multiple income revenue streams. I definitely agree it could be a bit of a double-edged sword depending on the stage that you're at in your business. If they're not tangentially related, it can definitely become a distraction. I think for me, if I had tried to build partnerships, for instance, outside of a direct impact on the customer, like payments, which made a ton of sense for us, and if I tried to do that more with maybe marketplaces or maybe other SaaS companies where it didn't exactly align, I think that would have become more of a distraction then being a successful sort of revenue stream that scales. So, when we first started to explore these different distribution partners, we really had to be focused about what we were looking for, what we wanted, and how our incentives were going to align. And so I think from like a small independent business standpoint, I think it is good to diversify your revenue streams. But, to everybody's point, if you're doing too much with very little, you can spread yourself too thin. And before you know it, you're just sort of treading water, hoping and praying that you're going to stay above it.
So alignment is important.
For sure. Incentive alignment and how you make money and the product that you have and the value that it provides. There has to be a sort of an intersection around that.
John, any additional thoughts?
Well, I think focus is really important in everything an entrepreneur does. You got to be clear about your values. You got to be clear about what it is you're trying to do for your customer. And you got to be clear about who your customer is.
It sounds so simple.
Yeah. Nobody said it's easy.
No.
With that, let's go to segment 3.